30 yards away, I could see, looking at your pot, that it was a piece of 18th century Scottish silver, because this spherical form with the silver handle and step circular base is absolutely typical from that period. So how did it come into your family?
It was bought by my husband's grandfather in 1938, and he sold it in 1940, just after the start of the war, during hard times.
Yeah.
And then several years later, my husband was looking at a list of silver sent by a Mrs. Howe of Howe of Edinburgh, based in London.
Yes.
And he spied the same teapot. He knew by the description and the weight of the silver, etc., that this was the very teapot which his grandfather had owned.
Oh,
so he bought it back. So it's been in the family for 37 years now.
Good heavens, what an extraordinary story.
Yes.
Well, you've also brought along some documents, and on the front of this antique collector from 1938 is a picture of the teapot.
Yes.
And it also tells us who the maker was. It was by Alexander Forbes of Aberdeen, circa 1730 to 1735. And what you have here is a really, really superb Scottish teapot. It's got Rococo decoration round the top here, and at 1730 to 35, that was very early for Rococo decoration, because Rococo only came into England in the very late 1720s, so the Scots were quick to catch on to this new form of design. Everything was asymmetrical and naturalistic. And if we turn it over and have a look at the bottom, we've got the marks here, AF for Alexander Forbes of Aberdeen. Now, if this was an Edinburgh pot, I would have said it was worth £2,000 or £3,000. But because it is Aberdeen, which is much rarer, I think it's probably worth about £8,000.
Oh my, very nice.
Very nice indeed.
Yes.
I shall enjoy a cup of tea out of it when I come and see you next. Which is Irish, but in order to understand what it's all about, I need to turn it up and look at the marks first of all. And if we do that, we see it's got 4 very unusual marks with the maker's mark WE. Now, do you know what these marks are and what this is all about?
The WE is William Egan, although he was actually known as Barry. Yes. Barry Egan was Sarah's grandfather.
And so this is a family-made piece?
It is.
You're connected to the Egans?
I am. My mother was Barry's daughter, second daughter.
Goodness gracious, this is really quite a discovery we've got here.
Yeah.
Well, so you know then the importance that Egans had with Cork and development of the Irish state.
Absolutely. And this is known as Republican silver. And Barry Egan was the deputy mayor of Cork, but he also owned a beautiful shop, silversmiths in Cork. And during the troubled times, during the Irish Revolution,
yes,
the assay office in Dublin was closed. So I imagine silversmiths couldn't sell anything because they couldn't have it assayed and marked. But he, in order to keep his craftsmen in work, he made his own assay mark.
That's right.
And carried on selling the silver. So he was very much involved with the Republican movement, but he certainly wasn't sort of shooting out of hedges or anything like that.
Well, Egans, of course, the firm of Egans, go back to the 1820s and made great silver throughout the 19th century. And in 1921, when the treaty was signed between Britain and Ireland, Cork was very much in the hands of 2 camps, those that accepted the treaty and those that didn't. And Cork was in the hands of those that didn't.
That's correct.
And so they shut down all the rail connections and bus and all the rest of it. So he couldn't send the silver to Dublin for marking if he wanted to.
No.
So you're quite right, he set up his own marks, and Barry, I understand, was personally responsible for organising the marks on this piece.
That's correct.
Now, what I have to tell you is that there are only 60 to 80 pieces of Cork Republican silver known.
Oh.
This puts this piece in a very special category. Now, what's the significance of the coins?
Well, when in 1921, when the treaty came about, he became one of the first members of the Dáil, the Irish Republican Parliament.
Yes.
and he was on a committee to choose the designs for the first Republican coinage.
So, this is a really important part of Irish history.
It is.
And it's no wonder that pieces like this are really sought after. The box is not by Egan, but it's steeped in history. So I would put a figure on that of perhaps £2,000 to £3,000. But the bowl is something very rare. I've never seen a bowl by Egan with corked Republican marks.
Okay.
But the bowl of this size and this condition, we're talking of quite a value. I think probably £15,000.
Lord. Because it was valued at what?
700.
For insurance.
About 12 years ago.
There.
15.
Yeah, as I said, there are only 60 to 80 pieces known, so a lovely big bowl like this is going to be a collector's dream.
Oh, there you are, you're a rich woman.
You couldn't have chosen two more diverse objects to bring along to a roadshow. One is very ornate and fancy, the other is about as plain and simple as you could get. The first is a really charming object. Do you know what it is, by the way?
Musical fob.
That's right, absolutely. It's made in Switzerland, round about 1830, 1840, in gold, made in gold, nicely chased with Venus at the bottom here, then enamelled forget-me-nots up the side, and then garnets in the central winder. And if I wind it up and we switch it on, got an absolutely charming but rather faint tune. But these have become really collected in recent years. Do you know anything about its history?
Well, apart from it's been in my wife's family for a long time, and as a child she used to take it out of the glass top table and play it.
Does that account for the dents in the base here?
Probably does.
Well, the other object looks, as I said, as plain could be. It's got engraved initials on the front here, and they're the initials of the original owner. But if I tell you this is one of the most exciting finds I've ever found on a roadshow, this simple, humble little object is something terribly, terribly rare. The most important thing about this little piece is that it comes from Perth, the ancient capital of Scotland. It's made by Robert Gairdine, who is the earliest, I believe he's the earliest recorded Perth silversmith. So this little piece dates from 1685 to 1690, is unbelievably rare, because there's so little Perth silver from this date that survives. This is a real museum object. I think it was probably used for tasting wine or scotch, something like that. Have you ever used it?
No, I will now though.
Do you know, was it ever used in the house at all? Or by...
It's always been in a glass cabinet and stayed there.
So going back to the seal, a gold seal like this, as I say, Swiss, mid-19th century, is probably worth, in this condition, £1,500 to £2,000. This little chap, by contrast, I wouldn't have any doubts whatsoever of putting on perhaps £10,000 to £15,000. It is something so rare and so special that I think you probably will be having perhaps champagne out of it later tonight.
Maybe. Maybe.
But you've made my day for bringing it along.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Made my day. Yep. Amazing.
You could tell from the far side of a football pitch that a box of this quality has got to have something wonderful in it. Just look at the beautiful engraved brass inlay of these coat of arms. They look vaguely familiar to me. Do you know whose they are?
Yes, I do. They're Spencer Churchill's crest, the two cross shields, and I bought it because of Lady Diana, then Princess Diana, and I fell in love with it.
I'm not surprised. You're talking of two of the most famous families in the British Isles, the Spencers and the Churchills.
Right.
And I got a feeling that something good is going to be inside.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Wow. Absolutely stunning.
Let's have a look in closer detail. A beautiful box made in silver gilt and silver. Lovely combination. Just makes it a bit more exciting than either completely gilding it. More work involved, so,
Oh, yes.
you know, absolutely stunning quality. Beautifully engraved in the center here with the same armorials. But the condition looks quite amazing. Traveling sets like this first started appearing in the early 19th century. And as the Grand Tour became fashionable throughout the 19th century, these boxes got more and more elaborate. And well-known companies like Asprey and Garrard won gold medals at great exhibitions and international exhibitions for producing these amazing sets. But this one, I mean, just look at the scent bottles. Beautifully painted in gold on the glass here. Even the stopper is a work of art. It's absolutely stunning. So I've got to ask you where you got it from.
Well, I bought it from a London auction house, and when I saw it at the first time, I said, this has to be bought.
I don't believe
I
you.
had to fight for it, but I got it.
Can you remember what you paid for it?
35,000.
35,000. Okay, let's look a bit further. Because if we lift this out, we've got another wonderful row of manicure items. Fairly standard to find a manicure set, but not fairly standard to find one with a lapis-handled letter knife.
Correct.
You've got beautiful cut steel scissors, mother-of-pearl handled manicure items. Absolutely glorious things. If we look at one of the boxes, we see it's got the maker's mark RG for Robert Garrard.
Yes.
He was the royal goldsmith to Queen Victoria and one of the best makers in the 19th century. Some say perhaps the best maker after Paul Storr, who's generally regarded as the finest maker.
Yeah.
It's got a date letter for 1844 here, so early Victorian. And Garrard's quite proudly put on the front here another little brass plaque saying R&S Garrard and Company, Crown Goldsmiths and Jewellers, Panton Street. So, you know, they were very proud of this, quite obviously. It doesn't end there, though, does it?
Oh, no.
We've got another drawer
More to come.
at the bottom where we got an ivory brush set. But the things that I really like are these, because they're actually the candlestick branches, and I think they screw into here, don't they? And so if you're traveling around Europe in the 1840s, this is pretty much everything you could ever want.
Oh, yeah.
This really is the ultimate traveling set by a great maker. So, how do you put a value on something like this? I think you paid a very reasonable price.
That was 1998.
1998.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen some pretty staggering sets in my time, but this ranks as one of the prettiest and the best quality. It's got a great history, one of the most noble families in England.
True.
And if I was valuing this for insurance, I would put at least £100,000, maybe more.
Yep.
Is that all right with you?
Oh, yes.
That's very all right, thank you.
Well, that has to go back into the vaults again tomorrow, I'm afraid. That sort of money.
Well, I'm not surprised. Absolute pleasure to see something so wonderful as this and in fabulous condition.